ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Twin City Trio podcast here on YouTube. My name is Cale Fleming, alongside me, as always, my two hosts, Gavin Campbell and Tyson Snyder. Boys, what's going on?
Not much, about you?
Well, same, living the dream. Gav, what's going on, man?
I guess I'd also be living the dream.
Heard that. So we're going to get into a little bit of things today, things and stuff involving Kyler Murray.
And stuff and things.
And stuff and things involving Kyler Murray. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL, possibly some upsets last night in college basketball. Who knows where we're going to end up. But let's kick it off right now with the NFL. Game number one that was very disappointing to me. The Chiefs taking on the Colts at Arrowhead. It was all Chiefs in this game. Andrew Luck was struggling. He didn't get much protection from his line. But that Chiefs
the
defense,
only game all year.
the one game he needed. But no, that Chiefs defense, so they were getting the luck pretty much either which way. Their secondary was really good. Patrick Mahomes is just Patrick Mahomes. I mean, they couldn't stop him. Indiana's defense didn't have an answer for him. Obviously, they won 31-13 over Indianapolis. What did you guys take away?
I took away this was a dome team that got caught out in the elements. I mean, that's pretty much what it came down to. I mean, Kansas City, don't get me wrong, Kansas City hasn't played outside in bad weather all that much this season as it is, but, I mean, they've got more experience than the Colts do playing in Lucas Oil Stadium, you know. So I don't really think it was Andrew Luck's fault so much as, you know, if you're not prepared to play in Mother Nature, then you're not prepared. As far as what the defense was giving up, I mean, this is what the Chiefs have been doing to teams all season long, so that wasn't anything new. I mean, you might have thought that the Colts would come in and maybe hold them under 30 points, but that still didn't happen. If you look at the Colts offense, I mean, they only mustered up one touchdown. I mean, that was probably the most surprising thing to me, but that's where the elemental part of it comes in. Other than that, I really think that's what it came down to because, I mean, we saw how many passes did Andrew Luck throw that came up short. I mean,
it was 19 for 36 total.
Yeah, I saw at least half a dozen passes hit the dirt 3 or 4 yards before the ball got to its target. So I'm not sure how much of the ball, you know, the surface was either slick or he just couldn't get a hold of it. And not to mention his offensive line seemed like they were struggling to get their feet set in the mud there in Kansas City. So, like I said, I mean, it probably just came down to the elements. I mean, congratulations to Kansas City because their defense stepped up in this game and played extremely well. Probably the best that they've played all season because they held a team to under 14 points. I don't remember the last time they did that, if they had all season at all.
I doubt it.
But I think that's what it came down to. I don't know about you, Tyson.
Yeah, I said I was picking Kansas City in this one. I just couldn't see the Colts walking in Arrowhead. I know Andy Reid's track record, losing in the playoffs, but I just didn't see a way, even with how good that Colts team was. It was almost too good to be true. 10 of their last 11. The whole team was super good. And I think that was kind of the story of this weekend was some of these defenses just letting down their offenses. Now, the Colts offense didn't do much to help them out either. But once again, you have Patrick Mahomes and his magic just working against that defense, and even that really good defense with some of those really young guys. They were exposed. There was nothing they could do. There's a reason Patrick Mahomes had thrown 50 touchdowns in the regular season, even though he didn't throw one this game. He still threw for almost 300 yards. They moved the ball with ease.
Travis Kelce had 7 receptions for 108 yards.
Right. So he was getting them down to the 5-yard line, then they were punching it in because they can. But, yeah, I saw the Chiefs winning this game. This was a tough game for the Colts to have to draw to come into the playoffs in the second round and go to Arrowhead and, like you said, play out in the elements. And yeah, it was a mix of bad things for the Colts to walk into. But yeah, Chiefs with a good win against a good team. So
I don't want to say that it would have been a different outcome, but I do think that their odds would have been increased if, you know, it was a nice sunny day, maybe 38, 40 degrees. I mean, it's just that I would have expected a better performance from Andrew Luck. Minus the elements. That's all I'm saying. I was just very disappointed in his play overall.
Yeah.
Like you said, like I said, the offense of Kansas City has just been too much all year for teams. And for them putting up 30 points was no surprise. I just expected more from the Colts offense.
It was the third time that Kansas City defense had held a team to under 14. The other two teams were the Bengals. They held to 10, and the Raiders, they only gave up a field goal. So.
And that's a combined, 7 wins between those teams?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
like that.
pretty bad.
Moving on. Dallas went out to L.A. to take on the Rams. Didn't end up the way Tyson wanted it to. They ended up losing 22-30. Dak played a pretty decent game. He was 20 for 32, 266 total yards. He had a touchdown. He only got sacked once. His actual QBR was an 83.6. Zeke had 20 carries for 47 yards. He had a pretty tough game, but I don't know if some of the play calling was working out in his favor when he did actually touch the ball. Amari Cooper had 6 catches for 65 yards. Michael Gallup had 6 catches for 119. So, I mean, they had a pretty decent game out of their receiving corps, if you think about it, because Coop was guarded pretty heavily, and he did score a touchdown in the first quarter thanks to that amazing block by Zeke.
Well,
I don't know who that was, but he planted that.
Yeah, well, let's not forget that Dak was without his favorite target in Cole Beasley. I mean, that was for the entire game. I think Beasley had 1 catch for maybe 10 yards or so.
Yeah, he only played like 10 snaps or something.
Yeah, so he was without him. Alan Hearns, obviously, with that horrific injury a couple weeks ago in Seattle. Without him, so there's your 4th-string receiver down, your 3rd-string receiver down, or possibly even 2nd-string receiver down. This was definitely a tough game. I don't want to say that it was necessarily a tough road game because I think there was about half Cowboy fans in the stands.
50-50. That's about as 50-50 as you could get.
Yeah, because the Rams technically don't have their own stadium yet. Right. They're sharing with the LA Galaxy. But for me, it was just really disappointing in the play calling for this team. Like you said, Zeke had 20 carries. Don't get me wrong. You want him touching the ball 20 times, but not for 47 yards. That was ridiculous.
13 of those carries were a dive straight to Aaron Donald.
Yeah,
and they didn't do
were
exactly what you said they should do on Friday.
Yeah, we said that was the key, was play calling and running straight at him. But you can't. He might have taken Scott Linehan listened to this, and he might have taken me a little too literal there, and ran straight at Aaron Donald. I said you needed to run a couple belly plays, a couple trap plays to let him come through, but get him out of the way so you can run at him without having to go through him.
Exactly.
I think this game came down to play calling, and the other thing that I'm even more disappointed in is they said Scott Linehan's probably going to stay around for another year or 7. So that was the one thing I had complained about all year was play calling with Scott Linehan and not taking advantage of what he's got. He couldn't draw up the runs this week. He didn't have Dak run the ball at all. Dak had 3 carries on a couple scrambles for like 2 yards. But there was no design quarterback run, which is what Dak has excelled at, and that's what's gotten a lot of the other stuff open.
Well, and what got me was, there's actually a couple things. Let me start with that. You brought up Dak running the football, and obviously that was not part of the game plan at all. That was thrown out before they even got into Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. But what gets me is that when space opened up in the pocket and there's 15, 20 yards of green grass in front of him, and he did not tuck and run for a first down, is beyond me. Because that's exactly what he did in the Seattle game, and that's what made him so successful and such a threat, and why they came out with a win. Now, it seems like the coaches were telling him in his ear, stay in the pocket, stay in the pocket, stay in the pocket, and try to throw the ball. I mean, I understand you're concerned for your quarterback's safety, and you don't want him to get hurt, but, I mean, this is the playoffs. I mean, you got to risk it for the biscuit, all right? So when you see that green grass, you have to take off. I mean, we've seen Dak's athletic ability all year long and in years past. One thing I want to touch on besides that was the defense and how they let up, God, I don't even know how many rushing yards. From
230.
Well, C.J. Anderson had 123, Gurley had 115, Goff had 12.
I'm glad you brought up C.J. Anderson because
Where did he come
I thought this guy was done after he got cut from the Carolina Panthers earlier this year. He got signed by Oakland, I think, and then they released him.
Play a snap.
Yeah, so Oakland didn't even want this guy. The Rams have their backup go down with an injury. They sign him off waivers 2 games before the playoffs, and he shows up and outruns Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
I mean, I really can't even put into words how, first of all, shocked I am, and how much that really pisses me off. I mean, great for C.J. Anderson. I mean, he's probably going to get a contract this season. He's going to bounce back and be in the league for a couple more years, but I mean, seriously, what the hell happened? I mean, this is a guy that obviously didn't play most of the season, and then last year really wasn't a factor because he ended up getting cut from a team that was on the bubble of making the playoffs and then kind of crapped the bed late in the season. So I'm really struggling to understand how the Cowboys maybe they just weren't prepared for this style of running, because we know C.J. Anderson's kind of a little bowling ball. He's not the fastest back, but he's pretty thick in his build. So I'm not sure if they just didn't know how to attack that because he's so much opposite of Todd Gurley, but it really makes me scratch my head and wonder what the hell happened that this guy had so many yards.
Well, I just think that C.J. Anderson wasn't in the game plan. I think they had spent so much time focusing on Todd Gurley. Now, they didn't do a good job of stopping him either.
No.
But I think they were counting on a lot more passing than what they got. Instead of the Rams ran the ball 48 times compared to their 28 passes they got through. And I just don't think that was in the game plan. I think the Rams knew that, and I think they planned for that rush-heavy attack, and they just weren't ready for Gurley to come out, or especially Anderson. Anderson's only played 2 weeks in the regular season. That was it. So I just don't think that he was in the game plan very much. I don't think they prepared for him, and it caught him off guard. Still disappointed in that defense. They let up more rushing yards than they had just about total yards in any game. It was really just an awful game to see.
Why did
it was
they
the
play
first time
Sean
that
Lee?
defense looked exposed. And Sean Lee,
Why did he play? Why did they miss?
Sean Lee's healthy,
Smith
and
had that.
he's really good, but at the way that Leighton Vander Esch had been rolling along, the way that him and Jalen Smith played together, I have a hard time understanding why you pull him out and put Sean Lee. And I love Sean Lee. The dude's great. But it just came down to chemistry and how they've been playing with the two younger guys right now.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Sean Lee, Cale, because if we go back on that fourth down play where Jared Goff ran for a first down, yes, he ran for a first down. Guess who was in the game at linebacker? It was Sean Lee.
Vander Esch would have hunted him down.
It was exactly. It was his cover. So we can see that the timing there for him to get off of his man and to the quarterback when he decides to take off. And this was well before he approached the line of scrimmage that he tucked that ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 3 or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he already decided, I'm going to run.
Yep.
And he still couldn't get there. He ran for 12 yards. So that's a really big head-scratcher for me. And speaking of fourth down, let me go back to the third fourth down play. I think it was like 4th and 1, maybe 1.5, that the Cowboys ran. And this goes back to play calling. Tyson said they ran straight up the gut with Zeke. This is the same play that they called for the very first fourth down that they ran. You really think the Rams weren't prepared for that? They ran a dive on the first one. They ran a toss for Zeke on the second one. On the third one, do you really think you're going to trick the Rams 3 times in a row?
Yeah.
I mean, that absolutely blew my mind. You could have done a play action. Dak could have done a bootleg. You could have had Amari Cooper run a drag, maybe a slant, Gallup, get involved, something different. You know, mix it up a little bit because you're not going to trick the Rams 3 times in a row on fourth down. That could have sealed the deal, maybe even sent it into overtime. But that really got my goat during that game, was that play.
You're talking about play calling. Todd Haley's on the market.
I wouldn't complain about that at all.
Mad swinging Todd Haley. Let's move on here. I'm not even going to waste our time with that Patriots-Chargers game.
Yikes.
Patriots won 41-28. Touchdown Tommy is not dead. Don't
The
ever bet
Patriots won
against them.
41-14. Those last 2 scores don't even count.
Yeah, true. Phil Rivers looked bad. His O-line, like Gavin said before we turned on the old record button, just absent. It was gone, wasn't there. And don't ever bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs because he's just a different animal.
What I tell you, don't go against Touchdown Tommy. I said you guys were making a mistake, calling him old, talking crap.
I'm never going to go against that guy until he's 6 feet under. I'm not doing it. I won't do it.
So let's just forget that game even happened. Chiefs are going to end up playing the Patriots at Arrowhead, right?
Yeah.
So go Chiefs, go Patrick Mahomes. Let's move on to this was the most entertaining game besides the Cowboys. And it's kind of funny how the 2 NFC games are the most entertaining.
It's because they're the only conference that's competitive right now. Same with the NL and the AL.
Yeah, true. It's absolutely true. The Saints took on the Eagles down in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Boy, I was scared that first half. I don't know if you guys watched any of the game.
Unfortunately, I did because, well, actually, no, I don't know why, because I was absolute torture because I hate the Eagles. But
I'm glad they lost. I'm glad Alshon Jeffrey missed that.
for whatever reason, I can't explain it, but as soon as the Eagles got that second touchdown after the interception and Foles dropped it in there, I was thinking to myself, well, that's probably going to be the last time they score because I think Drew Brees is going to get pissed and he's going to be talking to that defense. Sure enough, they didn't score again.
Yeah.
And Drew Brees came back. You know, they got a couple field goals, they got a couple touchdowns, and he pretty much did his job. And not just him, but the defense did their job as well. I was really impressed, especially in the second half, and how they kind of switched things up on Nick Foles, and they ended up throwing another pick. I was really impressed with the Saints team. Really wish they would have won by a little bit more. I feel like the second field goal they had was just kind of okay, we'll kick it here. Really felt like they could have got a touchdown. It was kind of I don't want to say desperation move, but it was kind of just a go for the points kind of thing.
Yep.
But other than that, man, I was really impressed. I'm glad the Eagles are out of it. They're going to have a situation on their hands with Nick Foles and Carson Wentz. If they can get Nick Foles out of town, nothing would make me happier. Someone go pick him up so he can have a trash season and retire. Other than that, great job from the Saints. I hate the Eagles. Tyson, what do you think?
Yeah, I was nervous at first, especially when Philly jumped up to that 2-score lead, but after that it was slow rolling. I figured this game would be a lot more scoring from New Orleans. Philly's defense hasn't been great all year. They've been good as of recently, but I still thought with that offensive line they could stop Philly's defensive line. And with Alvin Kamara and Drew Brees, I really figured they could roll in this one, win by a couple scores, but they decided to keep it close in this game. We'll see how they go against the Rams, but glad Philly lost.
Yeah, and let's I will give some credit to Philadelphia right now, just saying that they shut down Alvin Kamara in that game. Now, Mark Ingram stepped up, and thankfully the Saints have 2 running backs that are all pro caliber. But they absolutely took Alvin Kamara out of the game completely. That was probably the most impressive thing I saw from Philadelphia
I don't know
the
if
entire
they
game.
took him out completely because he still rushed for 71 yards on 16 carries, and then he had 35 receiving yards. So, I mean, he's still
Right,
deadly.
but let's look at his averages from the regular season.
It's nothing compared to his averages, right?
Absolutely. So,
and two, I guess I can say this. Never mind, you're right, because most of those rushing yards came after Fletcher Cox was out, and basically the whole entire fourth quarter.
yeah, I was about to say, let's take away the fourth quarter, and then let's look at the game in its entirety for those first 3, those 45 minutes. I wouldn't say he was a factor at all because, first of all, he didn't score. So in the red zone, he was completely useless as well.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say useless because they shut him down, so that means that they have to focus him. But I just want to give credit where credit's due.
I get you now. Yeah,
Just props. That's all I'm giving.
How about Michael Thomas, though? 12 catches, 171 yards.
Yeah, for fantasy owners, yeah. Chris, if you're listening, yeah, he knows all about that. That was very, very impressive for anyone playing those one-day fantasy games. So shout out to Michael Thomas.
Absolutely. So Friday morning, we'll highlight the 2 games we got Sunday. We only have 3 games left for the season. But real quick, the Bears, we weren't here. We didn't get a chance to talk about it. They just hired Chuck Pagano as our new defensive coordinator. Vic Fangio, obviously, for those of you that don't know by now, went to the Denver. He's their new head coach, and he was wearing the Bears owner's tie. I don't know if you saw that in his presser. That was kind of interesting. Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace had their end-of-year media interviews yesterday. Matt Nagy is not impressed with Cody Parkey going on the Today Show 5 days after missing that kick. I don't think he was necessarily upset about going on the Today Show other than the fact that it was all just a me thing as opposed to a we.
Right, it's all turned into a pity party for Cody Parkey
Yeah.
now, as opposed to just being it sucks that the team lost. It's all about, oh, I'm so sad because I missed the kick and this is my fault. Instead of just saying, hey, this was a team loss like they've been preaching all year. Matt Nagy said all year we've been saying we lose together, we win together. It doesn't matter who does what. We did this as a team, and it just wasn't very team-oriented.
Yep.
Here's the thing, though, is if Cody Parkey wants to give Matt Nagy a reason for him to get canned, I mean, by all means, go ahead because, listen, I wanted to keep you on here, but if you're going to be, a selfish POS, then you know what? That's fine. If you don't want to be a part of this team, you can go ahead and hit the market. We'll find somebody else that can make a kick.
Ryan Pace already said that 2019 is going to be a kicking competition.
Yeah.
He declared that yesterday.
Well, no. Here's the thing is there won't be a competition because Robbie Gould's on the market, and we're going to go ahead and bring him on home to Chicago. He's had countless clutch kicks in the playoffs. He was
Bears all-time leading scorer.
All-time leading scorer, and he was with the team for an entire decade. So you know what? We made a mistake. Let's go ahead and bring him back. Let's pay the man, make it right, and let's go back to the playoffs and actually win like we're supposed to.
Yep. All right, so that's pretty much it that's happened in the NFL. Other than there's one big thing that I've been sandbagging for last to kind of wrap this up. But it's also going to tie into baseball as well. Kyler Murray announced yesterday via Twitter that he is going to enter the NFL draft. I probably cried a little bit inside. I'm not going to lie. But although there's one big looming thing that the A's can do as of right now, and that is give him a $15 million contract, basically. He said $15 million, he'll go play baseball.
And see, when you told me that this morning, it got me thinking before we turned on the microphones, and I was like, man, $15 million from a rookie, that's a pretty high price.
That's insanely high for a rookie. I think a rookie only makes $500K.
Right, and that got me thinking, did he just say that just so no one will pay him so he has the excuse to go play football because that's what he really wants to do and he doesn't want to piss anybody off? That's what got me thinking. I don't know if that's really where he's at, if he really wants to play baseball and just make as much money as he can, or if you look at it the other way, like I was saying, does he really want to play football but not want to disappoint anybody, upset anybody, make himself look bad, for formally committing?
Here's the thing. Football fans, I get it. but as a baseball fan, and I agree with Tyson on this, if I can see him on the diamond at some point before he is washed up, I'm okay. Do I want to see him right now as a rookie in an Oakland uniform? Absolutely. I would love to. But I would just like to see him at some point be on a diamond. I don't care when that is. If it's 5 years, he goes and wins the Super Bowl, whatever. I don't care. I just want to see him out there. Because I can know what he can do on a diamond just as well as a football field.
Right. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think a lot of people wanted to see if this kid can win in 5 or 6 years, maybe even just get to the Super Bowl. If that's his goal, if he just wants to make it to the big dance, and if he comes up short, then that's okay. If he wants to go play baseball, go play baseball.
He has one of the rare opportunities to win both, and not only that, he is going to probably be the first person ever to get selected top 10 in both the NFL and MLB draft, because obviously he went number 9 to Oakland.
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes top 5.
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes number 1 with Kingsbury to Arizona.
Depending how he feels about Josh Rosen, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, a lot of people don't like Josh.
I told you since the draft that kid's a scrub.
Yeah. See, here's the thing: is I think the kid's very talented. I think it's a mental issue with him. I don't think he has the confidence in himself to go out there and do his job like he did at UCLA. Because as we saw it when he played in college, I mean, he's got talent. He's got talent. He won't use it, and I'm not sure. Like I said, to me it's a mental thing. If he can get over that hurdle, I think he can be a decent quarterback. But if we don't see it, then it's never going to happen.
I just seriously see Murray going to Arizona, don't you? Or where do you think he's going to go?
I think it's a good fit.
All right. Because who else would go number 1 in this draft?
Christian Wilkins at Clemson, defensive tackle.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I forgot about him.
There's a few defensive guys. This draft's a lot like last year's draft, minus the 6 decent quarterbacks.
Right.
There's really only 2 decent quarterbacks in the draft this year, in my opinion.
Who?
So,
Haskins and Murray?
Haskins and Murray. I'm sure there's one of the older guys that I'm forgetting that's in it.
What about that dude from West Virginia?
Will Greer.
Yeah,
I think he's the most NFL ready, but I just don't think he has the potential.
Yeah, I think Greer could go to any team, and
I think he could go to any team and play well and win 9 games. I don't think he's a playoff caliber quarterback, but I think he's NFL ready if he goes to a team that's decent.
I mean,
I don't think he can turn around the Browns like Baker did.
No, but I think that he could probably go to a team like Pittsburgh or something. In 2 or 3 years, he could probably take over that team, and they'd still be a playoff team.
Ben Roethlisberger,
borderline.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You guys got anything else you want to add on that?
No, this came down to just Kyler Murray's love of football, and I think that's great. I sent you guys the snippet of an article last week that said football is just the temptress in your ear that slowly beckons you back to the huddle. It's just something you can't get away from, and a lot of football guys know that it's incredibly hard. It's like a drug.
I think my thing is if he was playing any other position in the NFL, this decision would be a lot easier.
Yeah,
but the fact that it's quarterback, I mean, just of any team really, you're a quarterback in the NFL compared to a professional baseball player. There's just something about the mystique of being a quarterback professionally that draws people in, like Tyson was saying with that quote that he sent us a while ago. I just want to reiterate my stance was an unbiased standpoint. I genuinely think if he asked for that much money, just the logical side of me was thinking, he's asking for that much money, he's trying to find a way out. I mean, why else would you do it?
Oakland's not going to give a rookie $15 million.
Exactly.
That ain't going to happen. Good luck, buddy. Because Javier Baez this is his 4th year now, and he's just got paid $5.9 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's not anywhere near as good as Javier Baez, in my opinion, because Javi's obviously an MVP candidate.
He's runner-up this past season, right?
The only reason why Yelich got it was because Yelich's playoff run. And he got real hot in the second half. Manny Machado, let's talk about that real quick. Manny Machado seems to be looming closer and closer to the White Sox. He hasn't made an official deal yet. Bryce Harper just got out of a 5-hour meeting on Monday with the Phillies organization. That tells me right there that he doesn't want to go to Philly, because if he wanted to, he probably would have had a contract signed in an hour, honestly. 5 hours just did this. When I saw that it took that long.
You better make it worth my while.
Yeah. When I saw that it took that long, I seriously got doubts in my mind that he's going to end up in Philly.
I think he gave him a chance, and they just couldn't come to an agreement. They wouldn't give him enough.
The only thing they could sell Bryce Harper on at the time is obviously what they have now, and the looming fact that Mike Trout comes back. He comes home. They saw him on that. Mike Trout's still got 3 years left on his deal, I believe, in L.A., and, he'll have 1 year left, or 1 year together with Harper and Trout. That would be deadly.
Well, here's the thing is, is you said that Trout's got 3 years left. If Harper signs his deal for a shorter amount of time, they could both end up in Philly at some point if they were willing to make the money work.
Yeah, that's the thing. Those two studs, two superstars.
Right.
And Jake Arrieta just got paid by the Phillies too, so they're under that contract. Aaron Nola got paid by the Phillies. I mean, they got a lot of contracts they just shelled out.
Right, but if you're on a max deal for 3 years, you've probably made enough money to where you can take a bit of a pay cut. So
for Harper,
but do you want to?
I would.
Well, that's what Cale's been talking about. Is if he does, it would probably be the smart thing to do to sign a 4, 5, 6 year contract, go there with Trout, and maybe get something going. Maybe even win 2.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of signings. That's what Harper right now, being a free agent, is so valuable because he's 26 years old. He signs a 3-year contract with somewhere that he knows he can win a ring. He's 29. Sign that 10-year deal. You're 39. You made your money. You're done. Seriously, that's the way I see him doing it, and that's why I still feel like the Cubs are still a valuable option for that. Theo hasn't ruled anything out. It's just they need to make a splash, and I really don't want to see him in Philly. I really don't. I don't want to see him in Philly, L.A. I want to see him on the north side if he is in Chicago, but if he does end up with the White Sox, I'm not going to be too upset with that. I mean,
if the White Sox are in bed this much with Machado, I don't think there's any way.
They've pretty much got ruled out Harper at this point. I mean, you'd have to. Manny Machado's still he's still just as good if you look at it.
Well, I still think Harper's better, but
I can't disagree with that.
You could say that. I just, like you've been saying, the more I look at it, Machado seems like a better fit.
In Chicago.
Exactly. Yeah. But I do like Harper's fit with the Cubs.
I
like it a lot. And this is from an unbiased standpoint. I like his fit with the team, but I think if he had to go somewhere else, I think Philadelphia was the place. If it's like you said and it's not going to end up working out, I mean, there's no way the Dodgers are in on this. There's no way. I see him in Chicago. I don't. Where else would he go right now?
The only reason it would be the Dodgers because they just unloaded Yasiel Puig, Matt Kemp, and Alex Wood to the Reds to make room for Bryce Harper.
I can't see him in a Dodgers uniform.
I can't either. I think it'd look terrible. The only blue he needs to be in is Cubby's blue.
We'd take him up there in the north if we could afford it, but hey.
Let's move on to some basketball, though, boys. Sticking with college. A couple upsets happened last night. Number 25, Indiana went down 66-51 to unranked Nebraska. I believe that was in Bloomington, too. Bloomington, Indiana.
Yeah, it was at home.
It was.
That was a big upset, but the biggest upset of the night, obviously, number 1, Duke going down to unranked Syracuse 96-91 in overtime. Zion Williamson's 35 points was not enough. Syracuse played with heart and a lot of it, and that's why I love college basketball, because of stuff like that. Did you get to watch the game at all?
Yeah, I watched most of it. I think the only reason he even went to overtime is at the end of the first half, Hughes from Syracuse, he hit a 75-footer.
From their free throw line on the inbound. It drained it.
So that put them down by 1 at half, and then they came back. Pascal Chukwu off of the bench with 32 minutes came in and accidentally dropped a double-double with 10 points and 18 rebounds.
Said accidentally double-double.
And he sealed the deal with a late alley-oop at the end just to really rub it in. But I think all this came down to Duke is really, really missing Cam Reddish at the moment. I don't think that they knew how big of a factor he was because R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson are insane. They scored 58 combined. Tyus Jones had 32, or Tyus Battle, sorry. Tyus Jones played for Kentucky. But the other thing, besides really missing Cam Reddish, Jay White, I don't remember Justin White, had 42 minutes. He started for Duke, and he had 0 points.
That's the guy that's replacing.
He had 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and he fouled out. And he shot 0 of 10. The other thing, R.J. Barrett shot 8 of 30. He had a really, really rough night. He did hit a late 3 to help send it to overtime. But R.J. Barrett struggled. Justin White, yikes. I just think they're missing Cam Reddish, but a good win on Syracuse.
As Gavin and I talked about, any one of those 3 goes down, they're not going to win, whether it be Cam Reddish, R.J. Barrett, or Zion Williamson. Any one of them 3 goes down, they're going to struggle because they still had 58 points out of Barrett and Williamson, and they still lost.
Exactly. This is what happens when you build your team around 3 superstars and the rest of your team is role players. You got to start 2 of those role players.
Yeah.
So Like you said, when one goes down, you have to replace a role player, and now the role players outnumber your superstars. Now you have a problem.
Yep.
And when you have a problem, things like this happen. Although they kept it close, you have to give them props. That shows how great these two are, just them in itself, without Reddish.
Yep.
Williamson and Barrett, like you said, combined 58 points. They still sent it to overtime against a very tough Syracuse team. They're going to get some nods in the top 25. Now they probably won't make a top 25 ranking, but they'll get some nods. And this is really good for their program. It was a great all-around win. But man, Williamson still 35 points.
Still got Jim Boeheim there, and a lot of Jim Boeheim and the players came in and said, we knew we were going to beat Duke. This is another one of those teams that they believe they can win because they have one of the greatest coaches of all time in Jim Boeheim there. His son even came in, old Buddy Boeheim came in, nailed a 3, and went back out. He didn't play very much, but that's about it. But
perks of being a coach's son.
It's just like we were saying with the Colts last week. Frank Reich has them believing. Jim Boeheim has the Syracuse team believing. No matter if they had lost 5 games before that, they believe in this coach and they believe in themselves, and that's big.
Number 1 Duke goes down. I see them dropping to at least number 4, if not 5. Michigan 17-0. God, they're not going to lose probably all year. They're going to go up to number 1. Everybody basically is going to move up a spot. So Michigan's going to go to 1. Tennessee's probably going to go to 2, and then Virginia's probably going to go to 3.
Mm-hmm.
I see Duke dropping to 4.
Yeah, I could see them moving below Gonzaga because they both have 2 losses and Gonzaga won their matchup.
Strength of schedule, too.
But, yeah, I think they'll still sit on top of the Zags. Florida State lost last night, too.
Mm-hmm.
Number 11 Florida State lost by 13 to unranked Pittsburgh. Kansas almost lost another one to unranked Texas. They only won by 2.
That team is not good.
No, they were ranked number 1 coming into the season. We said that was a mistake. It should have been Duke. Now we see it shouldn't have been either of them. It should have been Kansas, or it should have been Michigan. Sorry. But Kansas, I don't even think they should be in the top 15 at this point. They've lost too many games. They've been too close to a lot of poor teams. This Kansas team is not all that it was hyped up to be.
Can we just say something real quick before you chime in? That Michigan has had the quietest 17-0 start out of anybody ever.
Their best start in franchise history
Ever.
Since Michigan's been a thing.
And nobody's talking about
it. Number 2 team, 17-0. How can that be
love.
in the Big Ten?
Well, that shows you how underrated the Big Ten is because no one's talking about it. It's all about the ACC. It's all about the Big 12, and these conferences aren't that good.
Look at who's always in the tournament in the Elite 8, Sweet 16, Final 4.
There's always 2, 3, 7 Big Ten teams. They're just there. They just appear.
We may not be that good at football. We sure are good at basketball.
Well, you ain't wrong. The only thing I wanted to say was I still think Kansas is a ranked team. Now, if you want to take them out the top 15, I think that's fair to say, but they're still a top 25 team.
Yeah, absolutely. I still think they're on top. I just don't think they're top 10.
Well,
Kansas
yeah.
and Kentucky ain't even in the top 10. I feel like, or North Carolina, aren't in the top 10. I feel like Kansas needs to be down there with them.
Well,
Right.
I still think Kansas is better than both of those teams, which is probably why they are where they are. I mean, listen, Kentucky's always
12-3.
right, but Kentucky's always good. This is nowhere close to the past 5 years, 10 years that Kentucky's been. This is probably one of the worst teams they've had in a decade.
Yeah.
And then North Carolina, listen,
This is the worst team that Roy Williams has ever had.
But they're still
Right.
12-4.
right, and Tyson was telling me that all 4 of their losses are from ranked opponents.
All but one.
All but one. Okay, so that's fair enough. So they still got one unranked loss. I understand that Kansas is this bad, but I still think Kansas is just a little bit better than the Tar Heels. So, I mean, if you want to keep them there, then I don't see why that'd be a problem. I mean, there's a couple teams underneath them that obviously deserve more credit, but we know how these people are, and they love Kansas. Mm-hmm. Whoever votes for these guys. So the fact they are where they are should be good enough. The fact that they dropped them this low. So, I mean, I'm taking this as a win in itself.
Ohio State's dropped out. Wisconsin's dropped out. I don't know. Iowa's 23rd. Louisville's got 112 votes, but that was because they beat ranked North Carolina. So they'll lose to somebody, and they'll get rid of all of them votes. Iowa State got knocked out. Minnesota at 13-3, they're not even ranked. I don't get that one.
You know, they've got 3 votes to be in the top 25, too.
3 votes at 13-3 in the Big Ten. Okay. That's a little backwards if you ask me. Nebraska's not in there. They just took down number 20. Number 25, Indiana.
Nebraska, Ohio State, and Wisconsin are the next 3 after Louisville to be moved into the top 25.
So look at that.
They're the highest 3 receiving votes right now, besides Louisville.
So you got them 3. And then you have Indiana, who's in, but they won't be for much longer. Sorry, Gavin. We got Michigan, who's in, and Duke, who's in. So
Dooku.
Well, here's the thing with me is that if Louisville's
You said
in,
it right.
I said,
Yeah,
what?
I'm just messing with you. Shut up.
here's the thing for me is if Louisville's in, then you have to put Indiana in because Indiana kicked the living crap out of Louisville in that game.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense for me. So if you drop Indiana out, Louisville has to be dropped out.
Oh, no, I agree with that 100%.
So,
but the thing
right.
is, the 112 votes are only becoming, they're not going to look at that. They're going to look and see that they beat number 13, North Carolina.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking at. And that's the sad part of the deal.
The
Honestly.
voting goes back to that. What have you done for me lately?
Oh, yeah.
like you were talking
Yeah.
about last week. Hey, what have you done for me that I can remember in the last 24 hours? So I think a lot of those votes just come down to that, and they don't remember that blowout, lost to Indiana. All they're going to remember is that win over UNC. So yeah, what have you done for me now lately? And yeah, I think that kind of screws the whole voting system, and it screws some good teams over. But yeah, that's
Well,
just
and
the way it is.
with that mentality, they'll probably brush this Duke loss under the rug. They'll be like, "Well, Reddish was hurt. Well, we don't want to look at it," and
that's
just
what
scoot
it'll
it
boil
underneath
down
there.
to.
You know, yeah. So that's just, man, that's just terrible.
They're going to boil it down to Cam Reddish wasn't there, but I don't understand how that can be a factor as well when Zion and Barrett are going to combine for 58. I seriously
Well,
don't get that.
it's like Tyson said when Barrett shot 8 of 30.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll do it. That'll do it.
Yeah,
He was 4 of 17 from the 3-point line.
that's a lot of threes.
Yeah,
That's a lot of missed threes.
he missed more than most people take.
Yeah.
He missed more than Steph Curry takes, and Steph Curry takes a lot. Okay, that's probably an exaggeration.
Yeah. Last thing I want to talk about when it comes to college basketball, I'll talk about it on Friday. We're going to have a lot to talk about on Friday, but Illinois is taking on Minnesota tomorrow night, Wednesday, at the State Farm Center, Assembly Hall. If you're me or guys like me, it's always will be the Assembly Hall. Looking for a first Big Ten win coming against 13-3 Minnesota. They're going to be tough. They have been tough the last 3 years, so I don't know, man. We played really well against Michigan, as we talked about last week.
Maybe they can build off of that. I mean,
maybe
it's hard telling
ride
week
the
to week.
momentum.
Yeah.
To finish off January, Illinois plays 13-3 Minnesota, 14-3 Iowa, 11-6 Wisconsin, who was ranked for most of the year,
First half.
had some pretty good wins and then has dropped, but still 11-6. And then we play 15-3 Maryland, and then 13-3 Minnesota again. So that's a pretty tough rest of the month.
So we play Minnesota tomorrow, and then at the end of the month we turn
14
right
days
around
later.
and go out to Minnesota to
Yep.
play them out there. Oh God!
I mean, if they can come away with even 2 out of those 5 wins, I mean, that would be pretty
If
impressive.
they could come out of one of those 5 wins, I'm impressed.
Oh no, I
They
think they'll
need
take
at
out.
least a win.
I think they'll take out Wisconsin. I think they've got a pretty good shot.
Wisconsin basketball, they're tough.
I know, but they've had some
got
bad
10
losses.
games remaining after this month.
Yeah.
They need at least a couple of those wins to even be in contention or a thought for anything, even the NIT. Because we're sitting at 4-12. We got 10 games left after this.
You're telling me there's a potential that we only win 4 damn games all year?
It's possible.
I mean, you know, there'll be 1 or 2 games where they win, and you'll be like, well, how the hell did they do that? And we'll end up with 6 or
And I'm
7.
going to tell you what, when they win that game, that locker room is going to lose their minds, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
They should, because it's not from a lack of work that this team's putting in. I mean, they're working hard.
No, it's from a lack of coaching.
Really,
there's some validity to that.
the only competitive games that they will have throughout the rest of this month is hard. February, they've got Rutgers at 8-7.
Oh,
And Purdue at 10-6, and Penn State at 7-10. And then March they've got 3 games. They've got Northwestern again at 10-7, and Penn State at 7-10. That's 5 games out of their last 10 that they might have a chance. Every team they play is above 500.
only losing to Michigan by 10, honestly, that's a highlight of the year right there.
Well, and they've got a shot at the end of the season. They play Indiana, and I think because the game is here, I mean,
That helps.
they might have a shot because it's the end of the season. And, you know, teams usually kind of, I don't want to say good teams kind of slack off, but it's a lot easier to beat a team in March than it is in January. I'll put it that way.
Absolutely. You get, in January, everybody's fresh. March, you start losing your focus a little bit. You're tired.
You're ready for those teams are ready for the tournament.
Yeah,
whichever
so
one they're
prepared
going
for
to.
the
So
tournament.
exactly.
We're not even probably going to make the NIT in all honesty.
Unless they can win 10 of their last 15
God
there,
damn.
but there's no way.
Use my language on that.
Wow.
God. All right, let's move on to some little better news. James Harden's making a case for MVP again. He dropped 57. He had 36 before half in the first half.
There you go.
36 points in the first half last night against, Gavin, you're right, it's against the Grizzlies, but still. He is now number one for most 30-point consecutive games. He just beat Kobe, who held the record in 07, 08 or something like that.
And when Kobe was like on top of the world, MVP
Yeah, 17.
status. Actually, I think one of those MVPs got taken by Steve Nash, but I'll leave it at that. James Harden. I think unless something drastic happens, he'll be the MVP again. The Rockets will probably end up making the playoffs. Go out in the
Simmons for Rookie of the Year.
Yep, always, and they'll end up going out in the second round because they don't have any help. Because Chris Paul's getting old. Capella's not enough. I just don't think that. They can keep up this kind of work. I mean, they lost Luka Mbamute and some other crucial wing defenders. I mean, Trevor Ariza is now in Washington, of all places. We thought his season was going to be a disaster with the Suns. It's really a disaster now in Washington.
He is off my fantasy team.
Because John Wall is, season-ending surgery. I mean, Bradley Beal's showing out, though. He's showing out for a contract, even though they've already got him signed up for a couple more years. No, I don't either. I really like him. I think without John Wall and him having to get his touches, he looks really, really good. Like he could play point guard. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's got that kind of Devin Booker-ish kind of role going on right now with him down there in Phoenix. But James Harden, he's going to be the MVP again. I mean, is there any objection to that?
No, probably
I
not.
really don't see who else can get it.
It's not really anyone else really trying to make a push for it besides maybe Giannis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. If Giannis ends up getting the 1 seed in the East, he'll probably have a good shot at taking that home.
I don't honestly disagree.
Kawhi also, you could go for Kawhi, but I think he's sat too many games for
Yeah.
rest so far this year. He just doesn't have the stat line. But
Actually, change that. I don't want to see Giannis win it.
Really, any of those three guys I'd be okay with.
Yep.
I mean, I like, even if Kawhi leaves, I mean, then I could say he won MVP in a Raptors uniform. That's pretty cool. Giannis deserves it. He's playing out of his mind, leading his team in all major statistical categories for the third time, I think. Actually, he might not be in rebounds. I'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure he is.
Take Giannis off of that roster in Milwaukee. They are bad.
booty cheeks.
Here's the thing: is I don't think they would be that bad because if we look at their role players, I mean, they went out.
They're not 30-12, that's for sure.
No, they're not, but I still think they're a top 5 team in the East, and this is why: is because they went out and got George Hill, seasoned veteran. They signed Brook Lopez to a vet minimum, seasoned veteran.
Splashing threes left and right.
Exactly, and they still got Eric Bledsoe, who's pretty good. I think Malcolm Brogdon's a great backup. They got Chris Middleton, borderline All-Star. I think they have a really solid team here. I mean, they finally went and figured out, and let's not forget Coach Bud. Coach Budenholzer's now there. He was a assistant under Coach Popovich. He did great things with the Hawks, made the playoffs multiple times, even went to the conference finals, and now he's in Milwaukee, where I think he's got a good shot to make it to the conference finals again, and even the NBA finals with this roster he has right now.
I need you guys to quit pussyfooting around here, and let's get to the big topic. Phoenix is now 11-33.
Woo!
You might say, Tyson, what does that mean? What does that mean, Tyson? The Bulls are 10-33. We've officially moved into the bottom 3 of the tank. We are getting there. Congratulations, fellas. We are tied with New York for second to last, and Cleveland is 1 game on top of us. They are destroying everybody in this tank game. The only way we can get there is by gifting Cleveland a couple wins for the rest of the year.
That's going to be a battle who can play the worst.
Yeah, hopefully we can accomplish that. The East now has the 3 worst teams in the league with Chicago, New York, and Cleveland. And Phoenix sitting 1 game on top of that. So that's the big story for me today. Let's go Timber Sixer Bulls.
I dig it. I love the enthusiasm with that take right there. I really do.
He wants Zion.
Well, but seriously,
You're damn right I do.
But let's think about this. Is because they changed the rules for the draft this year. They're in effect this year. So come May, when the draft rolls around, the bottom 3 teams will have an equal opportunity for the number 1 pick instead of being an increased odds for 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
If the Bulls finish as one of the worst 3 teams, they don't even have to be the worst anymore. They have an equal opportunity to get the number 1 pick. So I think this is really good for teams that suck because now you're not just tanking for number 1. You can tank for number 3 and still get just as big of a chance at that number 1
Well,
pick.
they do throw all 3 names in a hat, pull it out, say you're number 1. Is that how they do that?
Basically.
Pretty much.
Wow.
What they do is they come up with these ping pong ball combinations, and they give each of the bottom 3 teams an equal opportunity to get one of those 4 number combinations. And through that's how you get the top 3 lottery picks. The only rule is a team can't
all
get
3 at the bottom of a Plinko board and let the thing drop.
See, that would be so much more entertaining to me.
Imagine the suspense that would have. They
Yeah.
could broadcast that on live TV and have one of the best showouts of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Their ratings would be awesome.
You could look at the anticipation on every single executive's face as that little disc just keeps falling in between the
They're
boards
making
there.
like a mile-long Plinko board. It's just falling for like an hour. It'd be
Oh
great.
man! And there needs to be one in the middle that says "resend to top," like right in the middle. Oh, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, you're right. They should do that because aren't they televising the All-Star Draft this year? I'm pretty
Something
sure.
like that. They're going all out.
So just think, man, they're doing that. Maybe next year they can televise the draft and have some interesting way to get the number 1 pick. Wouldn't that be awesome if they had to send a player out instead and they had to do like a dance competition
That'd be awesome.
and then they have to vote on it? I mean,
Who are the
that would
Bulls
be
sending out to dance? Who do you think?
Lowry.
Laurie Marketing. He's got my vote.
Wendell Carter. I don't know, one of the rookies, Zach LaVine. I just think Lowry would take that home. How about the Pacers having probably the quietest 28-14 start you could possibly have as a basketball team?
Yeah, they're not far off the lead behind
Raps
Toronto
and
and
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
I think it's because there's no drama. I mean, you
They're just
hear
winning
about
games.
Philly's success because of the drama that's going on there.
They're just winning
Can,
games.
can I say one thing? Can I say one thing about Philadelphia is why is some of their fans, and when I say some, there's a lot of them, that want Ben Simmons out of town?
Because he sucks, dude. He can't shoot outside 4 feet.
But this guy is only in his 2nd year. Why would you want to trade him immediately? I don't understand.
Jimmy Buckets is a slasher that needs to get to that bucket.
And
He lives around there, minus the 3-point shooting.
Well, he's
Joel Embiid is 7 foot. He lives in that 4-foot circle. It's very, very crowded with all 3 of them down there and no shooters. At this point, with Joel Embiid, one of the best centers in the game, you need a guy that can be outside and can shoot from 12 feet. At least give Embiid some space. Give Jimmy that chance to cut to and get to that basket.
Here's the thing: is if you need shooters, why did they trade away Rocco and Dario Saric for Jimmy Butler? Why couldn't they
Because
figure out a
Jimmy's a
way?
stud.
Why couldn't they figure out a way to make it work? You know.
Why didn't they trade away Ben Simmons?
It's Philly, man. It's Philly. Just leave it at that.
I
We
will.
know how the city of Philadelphia runs, and the teams don't run much different than the city does.
Flyers suck.
So, yeah. There you go. Throw that out there.
They're bad.
Philadelphia is just a mess in general.
I think the best thing about the Flyers is gritty. I love gritty, man.
Yikes.
Still gives me nightmares.
Yeah,
Yeah, he does.
That is nightmare fuel.
He's fucking awesome, man.
Dude, no.
Why not? You
I
don't like
follow
him?
on Twitter just for the hell of it.
It's like the cocaine cookie monster. It's
That's
fantastic.
exactly what he is.
a hell of a drug.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. What else you got to throw at us today?
I don't know, man.
It's been really quiet this
Yeah,
week.
it has, hasn't it?
We didn't say it, but last Friday when we were recording, Rick Nash decided to retire from the NHL.
Yep.
One of the longest time players that we remember watching, one of the few guys that's left from our childhood.
He's down. Tutu's down. Jordan Tutu, one of the best fighters to ever fight in the NHL, and he's 5'5". Who else is down? He retired. Fisher from Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
The Sagan brothers, the twins, they're done. Man, everybody's just dropping. Nikolai Hobby-Bulin, you remember him? Our goaltender?
Hobby-Bulin.
Yeah, bro. He's done.
I'll tell you one guy I'm excited about that's still going strong is Luongo.
Robbie Luongo, yeah. He's
Down in
about it.
Florida.
He's him and Sid the Kid,
Mhm.
Tuukka Rask, Carey Price, the PK. I don't know, PK was we were in high school.
Yeah, he's not as old as some of them fellers.
Tuukka Rask is old.
I just wanted to throw Luongo out there because my buddy John appreciate
Luongo
that.
is definitely old. Carey Price is getting old. Marc-Andre Fleury, he's been around forever, but that dude don't age. Yeah,
Wait, I thought he was still 20.
What about
yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name playing with the Kings right now.
They just, God,
Anze Kopitar.
Kopitar, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he went back to Russia for 2 years.
came
Then he came back to the NHL, went to the Kings. And now he's just helping them get a first-round draft pick.
Right.
That team is bad. That's a team.
Did you see Snoop Dogg announcing their game the other night?
That's how
it was
bad they are.
great.
That's where you're at.
It
I didn't
so
hear about
good.
this. What happened?
I didn't even
Hey, he was out there announcing, and it was awesome.
Was
man.
he broadcasting on TV or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh
They brought him
my
on.
God.
They gave him a
Live
mic. There was at one point they started getting in a fight, and he goes, "Hey, who number 3 for us?" And they told him, he's like, "Yeah, go get it, Dion. Yeah, get some, go get some, Dion. That's right." It was awesome. Man.
Okay,
I
that-
need Uncle Snoop to announce every game.
That I have to look up on YouTube. That's
was
got to
good.
be fantastic. Oh man.
That's the biggest news in NHL as of recently.
Tampa Bay's-
There's not much going on
Tampa
because
Bay, the Blackhawks
Yep.
lost another one to the Devils last night.
yeah,
I
that was
watched the
high 8-5.
Yeah.
something. That
The
was a
Devils
lot
were
of
hot there a
points.
few weeks ago. That man, they just
They're
kind
not
of fell
exactly-
off.
They're not exactly unhot, but they're not exactly
Unhot?
they're not exactly-
Unhot.
They're lukewarm.
Lukewarm.
There you go,
I was about to
lukewarm.
say that's the word of the day right there. Unhot. That's
Hey.
awesome.
Yeah.
Is that that's not a real word, is it?
Unhot.
Unhot.
No, I don't think
I don't
so.
think it is either.
I think the word for unhot would be cold.
maybe just slightly warm.
Lukewarm.
Maybe lukewarm.
Lukewarm.
I don't like that word though, man. It just sounds weird. Lukewarm.
Yeah, man.
Lukewarm?
That's a good one. Look what?
Lukewarm. I don't know. That's
Whoa.
weird.
I don't know, man. There ain't been nothing going on now. Really.
Man, where are we at right
Oh,
now?
none of the playoffs are going on.
I'm
except-
feeling a little fat. I'm gonna go get me one of them like worms.
Look.
Hopefully, and eat my insides out.
Shoot.
So you got the playoffs on Friday. We're going to preview that. NFL playoffs. Basketball
Yeah.
playoffs
Yep.
need to start. NHL needs to get here. Playoffs. March Madness needs to get here.
Yep.
That's actually what we're in the third week of January already? Second week?
We're just in the third now.
Yeah.
So we're getting closer to
15.
March Madness. It's the best time of the year. I'll be glued to my TV for about 4 weeks straight.
Yep. I can't wait for them to come up with that app where I can stream those games for free. Like, you know,
Sure enough, March Madness app.
good night work. Good night work. I'll be on my phone all the time.
Yeah, I'll be in class watching them games. Sorry, Mom, I didn't say that.
I don't know. She might not have heard you.
Them 11 o'clock games on a Tuesday are dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Very.
Stupid. I'll be watching the Big Ten championship probably because that shit starts at 11. Stuff starts at 11 o'clock on Tuesday.
I ain't even conscious before 11 a.m. Like it. I don't know, man.
I might be awake, but I'm not there.
I was about to say I'm here right now. I'm just talking about stuff I remember. I'm really not here.
Next Sunday, they got a game out. I can't remember where it's at. I think it might be the Iowa game. They got one of them that starts at 11 a.m. on Sunday. That's a regular season game. 11 a.m. on Sunday. Why can't that start at noon or 1? 11 a.m. I got to get out
That's
of
the
bed.
NCAA right there
I
for
got to get out of
you.
bed at 10 to watch that game.
That's
What
ridiculous.
game is that? Look that up. I know there's one that starts at 11.
We'll figure it out.
Because the Northwestern game started at noon. I was fine with that. That's about
Noon is good.
on Sunday.
Great, man. I can eat lunch and then watch some basketball.
Sunday
That's
is
fine.
the Iowa game
At 11.
at 12 p.m. So noon. They do have one at 11 against Maryland
That's the
on
one.
Saturday the 26th.
Oh, it's on a What?
On the 26th.
Why are they playing an 11 o'clock game on Saturday? Calls back. Well, that's because when is that?
The 26th.
Is there
So 10 days.
There's no football that day, is there? Nope.
No, football's done first or
That's
second
right
week
in
in
the
February.
middle
Of
of
the
the
break.
break between the Super Bowl and now.
So yeah, that's why they're because they're going to run that from 11 to midnight.
Right.
So that'll be the first game of the day that day.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Well, I was going to ask who you guys got for the Super Bowl, but I guess we'll go ahead and talk about that on Friday.
Well, we don't want to get the card
Yep.
of horse here.
Yep.
Not
You
yet.
know,
Not
we'll
yet.
drag us out a little bit.
Oh, Chief Saints. Anyway, we'll go ahead and look past that. All right, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. If you enjoyed what you heard, go ahead and hit that red subscribe button down below and hit that bell icon next to it so you never miss a beat. Also, go ahead and leave us a like, rating, and comment below. Don't forget to follow us on our Twitter handle at sports_twin on Twitter. With that said, my name is Gavin Campbell. That was Tyson Snyder, Cale Fleming. We will see you guys next time.
Peace.
Based upon the view, you can't have too much trouble. So why can't we do it? Everybody's doing it. Let's start the fireworks, stand back and enjoy it. Oh, oh. Bomb to